What happens when the man who owns 6 booming distribution warehouses pretends to be the new trainee and finds out his teenage workers are being pushed to their breaking point? Isaac Jennings stood in the back of a plain white delivery van, adjusting the zip of his navy hoodie. His usually clean-shaven face was peppered with stubble, his hair under a faded baseball cap. No one would peg him as the CEO who bought the warehouse chain 6 years ago. Not here. Not in the 6th location, one he'd never stepped foot in since the acquisition. That was the whole point. Operations had been smooth. Profits were steady. But lately, Isaac had noticed something off. High turnover. A few complaints about late shipments. A couple of anonymous Glassdoor reviews that stuck with him, one about how teen workers were being chewed up and thrown out. He brought it up at headquarters, but his district manager, Nolan, shrugged it off. That's our busiest location. They just need to toughen up. Isaac didn't like that answer. So he invented Ian, a new seasonal hire sent over by a staffing agency to help with inventory. A few calls later, fake paperwork in hand and a burner phone in his hoodie pocket, he was on the floor of the Rockport warehouse. Inside, the air was thick with noise, forklifts beeping, boxes slamming, voices yelling over each other. A sharp whistle cut through the chaos. "New guy," barked a broad-shouldered man in a red vest. "You Ian?" "Yes, sir," Isaac said, keeping his voice low. "Don't sir me."
"I'm Foreman Rick."
"You don't stop moving unless you're dead."
"Got it."
Isaac gave a quick nod. Rick turned on his heel and pointed to a group of kids, literally kids stacking boxes onto a pallet. "Go help the high school crew. You're lucky, late shift's the worst." Isaac walked over. The youngest couldn't have been more than 15. A girl with short dark hair and a crooked name tag. Raya gave him a tired smile. "You're the new guy? Welcome to hell." He chuckled softly. "That bad? You'll see." They worked side by side in silence for a while. The job wasn't hard, but it was non-stop.
No breaks.
No water bottles in sight. Isaac felt sweat drip down his back, and it was only noon. An hour later, Rick's voice boomed again.
"Raya?"
"You're not paid to chat. Pick it up."
Raya flinched.
She didn't talk again after that. By the time lunch rolled around, Isaac's legs were sore and his hands ached. A bell rang, and most of the adult workers disappeared out the back. Raya and 2 other teens stayed behind, their backs to the wall, chewing on crushed granola bars. Isaac sat beside them. "You guys don't eat in the break room?" Raya shook her head. "Rick says we're not full-timers, so we don't get the break room." "What?"
"Yeah.
"He says if we want a real break, we should work full-time. But he won't let any of us. Says we're cheap labor." Isaac felt something burn in his chest. "That's not legal." "Tell that to him," one of the boys muttered. "Last week, he made Jamie lift a pallet that crushed his foot. Sent him home with no pay." Isaac blinked. "Did anyone report it?" The boy snorted. "To who?" "Rick's been here 10 years. He fires people for sneezing." That night, Isaac went home to his hotel room and couldn't sleep. He stared at the ceiling, fists clenched. These weren't just small issues. This was exploitation. Abuse, even. But he needed to see more. The next morning, he arrived early. Before the teens showed up. Rick was already there, barking at the receiving crew. "You get that shipment wrong again. I swear I'll dock your pay." Isaac watched silently, then got to work stacking boxes. Midway through the day, Raya dropped a crate, and it cracked open. Rick stormed over. "What the hell, Raya? That's coming out of your check." I'm sorry. You're always sorry. You're a screw-up. You want hours? Earn it. You want to go home early?
Fine.
You're done for the day." She looked stunned. "But my mom's coming at 5. I said get out." Isaac stepped between them, heart pounding. "She's a kid. She made a mistake." Rick narrowed his eyes. "You want to go with her, Ian? Be my guest." Isaac said nothing. He had to stay undercover. "Not yet." Raya grabbed her things and left, shoulders shaking. Isaac didn't sleep that night either. He called Nolan, the district manager. "I need you on site tomorrow," Isaac said. "Why?" "I'll explain soon. Just be there." "Bring HR." Isaac stood just inside the loading bay entrance the next morning, hands tucked into the sleeves of his hoodie. The cold concrete floor did little to dull the tension brewing in his chest. He'd arrived an hour before the shift started, not to work, but to watch. Nolan and Lisa from HR were on their way, both under the impression they were responding to a staffing concern, flagged by a mystery audit. Isaac hadn't told them more he needed them to see it for themselves. He watched two older workers finish a smoke break in the alley behind the warehouse, flicking their butts into a puddle before slipping back inside. A third man, tall with a twisted posture and a clipboard in hand, barked something at them on the way in, but Isaac couldn't make it out. His voice was gravel and venom. Raya arrived 15 minutes early, earbuds in, hood up, shoulders hunched against the wind. She didn't look around, just headed straight for the back door. Another boy trailed her, thinner than he looked in uniform, dragging his feet. Isaac didn't know his name yet, but he recognized the same slouched, exhausted walk most of the teen crew had by the end of the previous day. He waited 5 more minutes, then entered from the side, bypassing the time clock. The warehouse was already humming. Conveyor belts rattled, a pallet jack squealed over the concrete, and Rick's voice tore through the noise. "Garrett, I told you that stack goes to base 6. What's so hard about numbers?" The boy Garrett apparently froze mid-lift, holding a box half his own weight. He opened his mouth, but Rick cut him off. "You think just because your mom called about your hours I'm gonna go easy on you? You want less time? Fine. You're off Friday." Garrett looked like he'd been punched. He set the box down without a word and moved toward the next pallet. Isaac walked past Rick without making eye contact and joined Raya at the sort line. "You okay?" he asked quietly. She didn't look at him. "Shouldn't be talking." He let the silence sit for a moment. Then, "What's the turnover like here?" Raya glanced sideways, hesitant. 3 new people last week. All gone by day 2.
Why?
Her hand paused over a barcode scanner. "You saw why." Isaac stood next to her for another 20 minutes, watching how the line backed up in small intervals. There weren't enough people working the outbound dock. Boxes stacked faster than they could be moved. The forklift driver, an older man with a limp, was sweating through his shirt. Rick reappeared behind them. "Move faster, Raya. You're not paid to socialize," he snapped, then turned to Isaac. "You go help with loadout. You're not glued to her hip." Isaac didn't respond. He followed the line of boxes toward the dock, where a short woman with thick gloves waved him over. "You the new one?" she asked, wiping her forehead with the back of her wrist.
Yeah.
"Ian. Name's Clara. Grab those and load. M into Bay 4. They're late already." He fell into the rhythm quickly, lifting, stacking, shifting without pause. Clara worked efficiently, but even she was losing pace. "Always like this?" he asked between lifts. Clara didn't stop moving. "Since last fall." Rick cut 2 dock workers to save budget. Said we'd manage. "Do you?"
No.
"We just don't complain loud enough." Isaac caught a glimpse of Nolan through the office window just past the break room. Lisa followed behind, both of them in business casual, both out of place on the floor. Rick was already inside, gesturing wildly as he talked. Isaac slipped around the corner and entered through the side door. Rick's voice was sharp. "You want to talk staffing? I told you, we've got a soft crew. They're kids. They cry when you ask for overtime." Lisa was already frowning. "You've had 5 safety complaints in the last 2 weeks. 2 of them involved underage workers." "That's a load of," Rick started. Isaac stepped forward, pulling off his hoodie. The room went still. Nolan's eyes widened. "Isaac." Rick's jaw tightened. "Who the hell are?" "I'm the owner," Isaac said flatly. "And I've been working your floor for the last 2 days." No one spoke. I've seen enough, Isaac continued. You've weaponized schedules to punish teenagers. You've denied them legally required breaks. You've ignored safety protocols, berated your crew in front of others, and intentionally run this place short-staffed to squeeze more out of people already at their limit. Rick opened his mouth, but Isaac raised a hand. Don't. I watched you intimidate a minor for dropping a crate. I watched you retaliate against another for something his mother said. That's not discipline. That's abuse. Lisa turned to Rick. You need to step outside with me. Now. I've been here 10 years, Rick said, voice low. You think this place runs without me? Isaac's tone was colder than before. It ran to spite you. You're done. Effective immediately. Lisa walked him out. Rick didn't argue again. Nolan looked pale. I didn't know it was that bad. You should have, Isaac said. You've overseen this district for 2 years. You never walked the floor once. I got reports from Rick. Who else? Nolan didn't answer. Isaac looked past him, through the glass where the warehouse buzzed on, still behind pace. You're on a 30-day performance review, Isaac said. Your job depends on rebuilding trust here. That means fixing the staffing model, reviewing every safety violation, and reporting directly to me on progress. Weekly. Not filtered. Nolan nodded quickly. Isaac left the office and found Clara at the dock. Hey, he said. I need your help.
She paused, box in hand.
With what? I'm bringing in a temporary supervisor while we hire. I want someone who knows the floor to help train them. Clara studied him, sweat still beading at her temples. You serious?
Yes.
And I want a list of every crew member who's taken on more shifts since the staff cuts. They're getting raises. Clara let out a slow breath. We've needed this for a long time. He nodded. It's not just a reset. It's a rebuild. Across the warehouse, Raya finished sealing a box, then looked up and locked eyes with him. She didn't say anything, but she didn't look away either. Isaac gave a small nod. She turned back to her work, this time without flinching. By the following Monday, the warehouse floor felt different, but not calmer. The tension hadn't gone away. It had only shifted. Isaac arrived early, this time in his usual clothes, without cover. The hoodie and cap were gone. His presence on the floor was now open and visible, and everyone knew who he was. Some avoided eye contact. Others stared openly. No one spoke first. He made his way to the break area, where Clara was already reviewing a clipboard. She looked up, expression unreadable. I've got your list, she said, holding it out. 12 part-timers working over 30 hours since February. 4 of them are students. Isaac took the sheet, scanning the names. We'll start wage adjustments this week. Retroactive to the beginning of last month. She nodded, but didn't thank him. Instead, she leaned slightly against the wall, arms crossed. You know, she said, some of them don't trust this'll stick. They've seen a lot of promises. They'll see actions, Isaac replied. Not announcements. A door swung open behind them. Lisa stepped out of the HR office, holding a folder. Got a minute? She asked Isaac. We got a problem with the hiring pool for this location. They walked to the far end of the warehouse, near the loading dock where the noise was lower. Lisa opened the folder and flipped to a printed spreadsheet. We've put out 3 listings over the weekend. Only 2 applicants have responded. One's 17 with no experience. The other's got a prior injury that limits lifting. Isaac frowned. What's the block? Word's gotten around. Teens are telling each other to avoid this place. One of the parents even posted on a local community board about Rick. The reputation here's radioactive. He exhaled sharply and looked out across the floor. Boxes moved slowly. The sort line lagged behind. The pace couldn't recover without more hands. Do we have any leads on temp support from nearby sites? Lisa flipped a page. 2 from the Eastfield warehouse are available for rotation. 1 has forklift certs. The other's been in inventory for over a year. Bring them in. Start them tomorrow. Pay relocation travel if needed. Lisa hesitated. There's more. Isaac turned back. Raya's mother came in this morning before her shift. She asked to speak to management. About what? She wants assurance her daughter won't be targeted again. She also asked if the company has a written policy for how minors are treated during training and discipline. Isaac straightened. Do we? Not clearly. It's bundled into general onboarding. Nothing specific for youth workers. Draft 1. Focused on protections, not just responsibilities. Lisa nodded, but didn't leave. She also said something else. About the Friday crew supervisor.
Owen.
Isaac blinked. What about him? She said he made a comment about her daughter's appearance. Something about not being warehouse material because she looked too soft. And that he marked her for fewer shifts after she didn't laugh. Isaac's jaw tightened. Is he here today? In the back office. Shift started 30 minutes ago. Isaac didn't ask anything else. He walked straight across the warehouse, passing workers who paused mid-task to glance his way. When he reached the back office, he didn't knock. Owen was sitting at a desk, scrolling through a tablet, a half-eaten sandwich on the corner of the table. He looked up and blinked twice.
Oh.
Mr. Jennings. Didn't expect you here this early. Isaac closed the door behind him. You made a comment about a minor employee's appearance, then reduced her shifts. Owen's eyes darted. I think this is being twisted. I just said she seemed... Don't finish that sentence. Owen swallowed. There was no bad intent. I was just observing she didn't seem... You don't get to decide who fits. You manage performance, not people's faces. I didn't mean... You retaliated against a 17-year-old for not laughing at your comment. That's not just inappropriate. It's grounds for immediate dismissal. Owen stood up quickly, palms out.
Wait.
I've worked here 2 years. I've never had a complaint, you do now. And it's not open for debate. Isaac stepped aside and opened the door. You'll be escorted out by HR. You're done here. Owen didn't argue again. Lisa was already outside, waiting. After he left, Isaac stood in the office for a moment, the silence pressing in around him. Then he walked back to the floor. The ripple was immediate. Workers had seen Owen leave, escorted, wordlessly. No shouting. No defense.
Just gone.
Isaac pulled Clara aside. You know anyone who's been overlooked for leadership? She didn't hesitate. Marcus. South Dock. Been here 4 years. Knows every part of the line. Never got promoted because Rick said he was too quiet for a lead role. Bring him to me. 10 minutes later, Marcus arrived. He was tall, lean, maybe in his early 30s. His shirt sleeves were rolled up, hands streaked with grease from the loading rig. You asked for me? Isaac nodded. Clara says you know this place better than most. I need someone to lead the Friday crew. I've never done supervisor work. You've done the hard part. The rest you'll learn. Marcus paused. Do I have authority to make changes? Like how the shifts are rotated? You will. You'll report to Clara while we finalize transitions. She'll help you build a fair schedule. Marcus nodded slowly. I'll do it. But I'm not going to yell like Rick did. Good. That's exactly why I picked you. By midday, the floor moved with a different kind of rhythm. Slower, but steadier. Raya was back on shift, working across from a new hire from Eastfield who asked questions instead of barking orders. The teen crew still kept their heads down, but they weren't flinching anymore. Isaac walked the perimeter, watching. He stopped by Clara again as she updated the dock chart. Think it'll hold, he asked. It's holding now, she said. But we're overloaded. Without more staff, we'll fall behind again by next week. I'm not expecting a miracle, just a foundation. She looked up. What about training? We've never had a real system. New hires just get dumped into whatever's open.
We're building that next.
I want you, Marcus, and the incoming supervisor from Eastfield to write the first draft. You're giving us the structure? I'm asking you to help define it. You know what works better than I do. Clara didn't say anything for a moment. Then she picked up a marker and wrote a quick note on the corner of the chart. Isaac turned to leave, then paused. One more thing. Yeah. From now on, the break room's open to everyone. No exceptions. She raised an eyebrow. Even part-timers? There's still people. She gave a single nod. I'll spread the word. The day closed slower than usual. But no one was shouting. No one was sent home early. The line didn't finish ahead of schedule, but it finished. And when Raya walked past Isaac at the time clock, she didn't avoid him. She gave a quiet "see you" and kept walking. He didn't answer out loud, but he knew he would. By the end of the third week, the Rockport warehouse was holding together barely. Productivity hadn't bounced back to full strength, and Isaac didn't expect it to.
Not yet.
The gains were small but visible. Fewer injuries, more consistent shift coverage, and a noticeable drop in complaints. But the deeper work, the culture, the structure, the trust would take longer. He stood in the upstairs conference room, reviewing the latest metrics with Clara and Marcus. A whiteboard behind them listed daily targets, color dots marking progress. Most were yellow. Only one green. But none were red. We're short 8 workers across the docks and outbound crews, Clara said, flipping through a binder. Even with attempts from Eastfield rotating in twice a week, we're still bleeding hours. Marcus leaned forward, tapping a column. We've kept up by asking for voluntary overtime. No one's been forced. But it's wearing on the crew. Isaac nodded. How are they responding? Better than I expected, Marcus said. But it won't last without reinforcement. They need to know this isn't permanent. Isaac looked at Clara. How quickly can we train new hires if we bring in a dedicated trainer? If that's their only job, we could cut onboarding time in half. Maybe start them on lighter roles by day 3.
Good.
I'll pull someone from corporate. Temporary assignment. You and Marcus build the training outline by Friday. Clara scribbled a few notes, then paused. There's something else. Isaac looked up. There's one supervisor left from Rick's old team.
Leah.
She handles inventory reconciliation. Quiet, keeps to herself. But I've noticed some discrepancies. What kind? She's been manually overriding scan counts and assigning blame to part-time pickers. Marcus spoke next. We've had 2 teens written up based on her adjustments. But when I double-checked the pallets, her numbers were off. Isaac didn't hesitate. Is she here now? Office floor. Back corner, Clara said.
He stood.
Let's go. They walked the catwalk above the sorting lines and descended the narrow stairs to the main floor. The hum of machinery filled the space, but Isaac's focus was locked on the glass-walled office in the back. Leah sat behind a monitor, typing with one hand and holding a clipboard in the other. When he entered, she looked up, startled. Mr. Jennings. I wasn't expecting. You've been altering inventory reports, he said flatly. Her eyes flicked to Clara, then to Marcus. I've had to make corrections. The scanners aren't always accurate. Some of the new hires don't know what they're doing. You've overridden 12 scans in the past 8 days, Isaac said. All assigned to underage staff. They were the ones making the mistakes, she replied, voice tightening. I've worked here longer than most of them have been alive. I know how to spot a wrong pull. Isaac didn't raise his voice. Did you verify the errors physically? I don't need to. I can see patterns. You don't get to write up employees without confirmation. Not here. Not anymore. She stood defensive now. You brought in kids with no background. They're careless. I'm just trying to prevent losses. By targeting them? Clara said, stepping forward. You never once flagged a full-time adult. Leah's jaw clenched. I call what I see. Isaac's voice was ice.
No.
You call what fits your bias. You've used your position to discredit workers with no way to defend themselves. That's over. She looked at him, something defiant rising in her posture. So what? You're going to fire me because I hold people accountable? Not people, Isaac said. Just the ones you assumed wouldn't talk back. He turned to Marcus. Escort her to HR immediately. Leah didn't speak again. She walked out stiffly, clipboard still in hand. Isaac watched her go, then looked back at Clara. I want a full audit of every write-up she's filed in the past 2 months. If any of them impacted pay or hours, we reverse them. Clara nodded. Already started, Marcus added. The 2 teens who got flagged? One of them's been picking up extra shifts to cover his brother's medical bills. Kid never complained. Find him, Isaac said. Bring him to my office after shift. Quietly. Later that evening, the warehouse dimmed as the last crew clocked out. Isaac sat at a table in the small upper-level break room, a plain folder open in front of him. Inside were notes on warehouse policies, drafts of revised training modules, and a list of names employees who had stepped up in the last 3 weeks without being asked. The door creaked, and a tall boy stepped in, cap in hand, eyes wary. He looked about 16, maybe 17. You wanted to see me? He asked. Isaac motioned to the chair across from him. Have a seat, Elijah. The boy sat slowly. Did I do something wrong?
No.
Quite the opposite. He opened the folder and slid over a revised schedule. Starting next week, you'll be training 2 new hires on outbound prep. You'll be paid lead rate during those hours. Elijah blinked. Me? You've worked 5 straight weeks without a single tardy. You've corrected errors without pointing fingers. And your coworkers trust you. That's leadership. The boy stared at the paper. I've never trained anyone before. You'll have help. You're not being thrown in. But I want you to know we see the effort. Elijah nodded slowly. Thank you. As he stood to leave, Isaac added, and your brother, he's welcome to apply here when he's ready. No rush. Just let us know. Elijah's eyes flickered with surprise, then something else relief. He left without another word. The next morning, Isaac gathered the entire warehouse crew at the loading bay before the shift began. For once, the machinery was silent. He stood on the low platform near the exit doors, hands at his sides. I'm not going to give a speech, he began. You've had enough people talk at you. A few workers exchanged quiet glances. I came here because I stopped trusting reports. I stopped trusting what I was being told from a distance. And what I saw here, what you go through every day, it shook me. No one interrupted. I'm not here to make promises. I'm here to make changes. Some of them you've already seen. Some will take longer. But all of them are rooted in something simple: respect. He looked out across the group. You deserve to be trained properly, to be treated fairly, to work in a place where your safety and dignity aren't optional. He held up a folded sheet of paper. This is our revised Employee Bill of Rights. It's not a legal document. It's a commitment from me and from every manager who works here. Read it, sign it if you believe in it, and hold us to it. He stepped down, handed the page to Clara, and walked off the floor. Later that week, the first 2 new hires completed their orientation. They started under Marcus's supervision, with Elijah shadowing. The lines still ran tight. Orders still backed up on heavy days. But no one was screamed at.
No one was sent home for speaking up.
And no one was written up without evidence. The break room was full at lunch for the first time in months. On Friday afternoon, Isaac stood at the edge of the outbound dock, watching a completed pallet roll into the truck. Clara walked up beside him. You're still here, she said. I will be. Every Friday for the next 6 months.
Why?
To make sure I never forget what distance costs. She nodded once, then turned to check the inventory monitor. He stayed a moment longer. Then he left the floor, not as an outsider, not as a visitor, but as someone who'd finally learned the weight of what he owned and what it meant to carry it right.